only applied for the NDA exam and nothing else. If I had not gone into the NDA, I would have probably lost a year. All your decisions will not always be right. Even if you get 50% of them right, I think you're doing a pretty good job. When a decision is being taken, it has to be for the greater good. It might harm a smaller population of people. As long as it is benefiting a bigger population, it is still justified. You should not believe Wikipedia, Wikipedia says I paint, I do gardening, I do yoga. They even say I have a son, which my wife is questioning me.
So good morning, friends. Today we are honored and privileged to have General M M Naravane, the 28th Chief of Indian Army, with us. He has kindly accepted to do a short podcast with us, and we are really truly honored, sir, to have you here.
Thank you, and always a pleasure to talk to not only to you but through you to a wider audience and let them know about the Indian Army and things in general.
So sir, today is, I think, we have seen multiple interview of yours as the chief, even after you exited the post. Before that also, you have talked at length about the Indian Army, what all operations we do. People know about it quite a lot through you. However, today, the aspect is we want to know the man behind the uniform. We want to know a little bit of your personal life.
I'm no longer in uniform. So I'm already.
Correct. Absolutely, sir. So my first question to you, sir, is before the uniform, before the medals, so many medals which you won, who was M M Naravane as a young boy? What shaped your early years, which led you to join the Indian Army and then eventually become the chief?
Well, firstly, when you don't think right at the beginning that you'll become a chief or anything like that, that just happens in due course because of hard work and generous slice of luck also. But as a child, I think I was just like any other child of my age in those times. Spent most of my time outdoors playing cricket or football, or I hardly ever remember studying or doing homework and all those things which, or attending tuitions. Never had any tuition for anything. So I think ours was a very much simpler time, a more carefree childhood where you could, in fact, those days it used to be that you were not allowed to be at home between 4 and 7 in the evening.
Oh, why was that, sir?
You're supposed to be outdoors playing games.
Okay.
You can't be inside the house.
Okay.
So 4 o'clock we were pushed out of the house, and if you came 1 minute later than 7 o'clock, you had it. There is one in Marathi play also, Satcha Aat Gharat, which is a different connotation, but that is how it was. That 7 o'clock back home. So it was, as I said, a more carefree childhood where you could explore the surroundings, play games. More often than not, we came back with some scratch on your knees or elbows and sprained ankle, which was all set right by a good bath with a cup full of Dettol in it. So those were the kind of.
Were you a naughty child? Were you a disciplined child? I mean, if your mom had to describe you, how would she describe you?
No, she would definitely describe me as the quietest of the children.
Okay.
As compared to my brother, who was extremely boisterous and who could make you cry actually.
Okay.
So as compared to him, I was very much on the quieter side. Okay. The good boy in the family. But notwithstanding that, as I said, I was always fond of an outdoor life. And that probably shaped my views of joining the army. And, most of us actually, when we decide to join the army, we think that we'll get away from studies. The amount of studying you have to do after joining the army is probably more than anybody else does. So that was how I slowly gravitated towards joining the army.
And so, if you could recall that day when you joined NDA, maybe you were standing at the gates of NDA. What were the thoughts which were going through your mind at that point? I'm sure as a young boy, one doesn't give too much thought to it, but I'm sure, there must be some emotions which were going through your mind. What, if you could recall that particular day?
I can't recall that particular day as such, but I would like to say that I had only applied for the NDA exam. These days, not only these days, but earlier also you would apply for IIT, you would apply for medical, some other engineering college. You hedged your bet so that if not here, you could go there. But I had only applied for the NDA exam and nothing else.
Okay.
So if I had not gone into the NDA, I would have probably lost a year.
Okay.
Because I would not have got admission.
All right.
So that way I was quite focused that I have to go to the NDA. And I was mentally prepared that there's going to be ragging, it's going to be a tough life. So it didn't really perturb or unnerve me when I actually came face to face with those situations as a first termer at the NDA.
Any particular incident in the NDA which has created a lot of impression? I mean, I'm sure there must be a lot of them, but any particular incident you still recall which has really created an impression on your young mind at that point in time?
What actually NDA teaches you, and what this, in fact, there are always pros and cons of ragging, So, the main part about the training in the NDA is the esprit de corps that is built up, the camaraderie which is built up, especially amongst course-mates. And you never rat out a course-mate, no matter what. You will take as much punishment as being meted out, but you will not name another person. So that is the kind of bonds which develop, and I have done it for others and others have done it for me. So it's mutual.
And in a way, it prepares you for a war.
It prepares you, that toughens you up. And in the first month or so after you join NDA, you can withdraw without any penalty. And people do withdraw. 5-10% of the people who join, the young, we were all young boys, 16, 17 years old. Many times we are still unsure of the path we want to follow. Not just the physical path, but even the career path. So after having joined, you can have a change of heart. So you're allowed to go out. So I think it's a good thing if people drop out right at the beginning, rather than be unhappy for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
It's a good thing. The main quality, I think, in the MBA is that esprit de corps.
And so, on the career path, thinking back again, if not Indian Army, if not NDA, what could else, could have been an alternate career path for you at that point in time, if you look back?
In fact, in one of my very first interviews after becoming chief, in fact, it was in Pune only, coincidentally, that I was asked the very same question. And while in school, I had read a book called Fountainhead by Ayn Rand.
Right.
And the
Beautiful book.
Hero in that book is one Howard Rourke, who was an architect. And I was very impressed by that guy.
Okay.
So if not the army, I would have become an architect.
Oh, great.
And I also had engineering drawing in school as one of my subjects, and it was my favorite subject. I even got a distinction in that in the board exam.
Right.
So if not fighting and destroying things, I would have probably been building them.
So now post-retirement, do you ever think you want to do something in that field? Of course, may not be a professional architect, but maybe something related.
Yes, so now I'm doing a lot of writing work, creative work. And, write a bi-monthly article for the print India, and it's an online journal.
Right.
And so that is in a way
A creative.
creative outlet.
So you paint as well. We got to know that you.
Yeah, actually, you should not believe Wikipedia, you know. Wikipedia says I paint, I do gardening, I do yoga. They even say I have a son,
Okay.
which my wife is questioning me. So,
Oh,
Not-
I think so. The
not-
information is
yeah, so
not correct.
Not really.
Okay.
But yes, I do like to see things grow. And I like going to parks and gardens, and sight of a field full of flowers does motivate me. It's a good thing. It's soothing to the eyes, soothing to the mind.
Right.
So definitely from that point of view. As far as yoga or other things are concerned, we are all used to doing exercise, physical fitness. In the NDA and the army, it is obviously more vigorous kind of exercise. But as you grow older, I think doing yoga is a very good alternative
Right.
to maintain your health, flexibility,
Right.
and all those other things. Mainly to keep having a good quality of life.
Absolutely.
Because if you're not healthy, and if all the time you're running to hospital and popping pills, you will only not enjoy
Correct.
not only your life in career or whatever career you have, but even after you retire.
Absolutely.
So I think maintaining
In fact, so we have taken up an initiative. There's a young boy. He's an AIT graduate, and he's gotten into yoga now. And so we have collaborated with him, and we are trying to send him to different units across the country, so that he can go stay there for a week, take the sessions of yoga. So that helps. We also believe that it helps with the physical and mental health of everyone who practices yoga. So I think that is what we are as well trying to absolutely. So one thing I think again a question from your when you were in service. So what, if you could recall, what was one of the most difficult decisions you ever had to make? Not as an officer, but as a man leading other men. As a commander, or which was possibly decisions which could have been personal in nature for a few men of your unit, for example. Not as such, not a decision which is related to the war, but more related to the personal lives of your men.
Decision making is part and parcel of the job, and not just as chief or anything, but right from the day you join.
Absolutely.
As officers, you are always in a leadership position. You may have people on top of you, but whether you're a platoon commander or company commander, you'll always be
Making decisions.
making decisions. And all your decisions will not always be right.
Right.
And even if you get 50% of them right, I think you're doing a pretty good job.
Right.
And decisions, some are organizational, some are which affect individuals or small groups of people. So they're not any particular decision, but it has always been my endeavor that when a decision is being taken, it has to be for the greater good. It might harm a smaller population of people, but as long as it is benefiting a bigger population, it is still justified.
It's a very good way of thinking about how to take it.
Because you will never be able to please all the people all the time.
Absolutely.
You have to see what is the greater good, whether it in that particular group or for the organization. And if that is kept at the back of the mind, I think more or less you'll be on the right track.
So next question is on your better half. So your wife is a teacher. And the wives of army men, their lives are very difficult. there's a constant stress especially when the man is out in the field. Uh, how did she navigate, through your career? Also, developing herself professionally. How was her life like in that sense?
There's no doubt that our ladies, our wives, play a very important role in our careers. As far as their own lives and careers are concerned, it's a very difficult choice that they have to make right at the outset. I think when I got married 40 years ago, in those days, the default career option for an army wife was to become a teacher. There was connectivity and online and work from home and all those kinds of things were not there.
Absolutely.
And obviously, if you're going to get posted from one place to the other every 2.5 years, there's no question of holding on to a very permanent kind of a job. So you would find that most army wives willy-nilly graduate towards the teaching side. But having come into the teaching side, she's actually enjoyed it. She's flourished as a teacher, as a academician. And she not only taught in schools all over India, she also taught in international schools in Myanmar, where I was posted, and thereafter in the British school in Sri Lanka. So we did gain wider exposure, different methods, pedagogy for teaching,
Right.
those kind of inputs, which obviously stand in good stead. And based on that, now she's also advising various NGOs on educational matters and how it can be done in different states of India, both in rural areas as well as urban areas. So it has become actually a career. So it might have gone there for lack of other opportunities. Apart from that, yes, it is a difficult role that they have to fulfill, and especially your husband is an infantry officer who's in the field most of the time. You're both father and mother. You have to do all jobs, pick up the kids, drop the kids, the homework, dressing them up, attend PTM, the whole gamut of things, and hold down your job. So, yes, it is a very difficult role that they play, multiple roles that they play. And you must give credit to all army ladies, all army wives for the stupendous job that they do.
Absolutely. You also have two daughters. Daughters are usually very close to their dads, and I've seen even my sisters, they are typically closer to dad than sons are. Typically, that is how maybe biology works. You have been a very tough man, a warrior throughout your life. How hard or difficult was it to do that balancing job as a dad, very close to daughters, and a tough man in the army? And were there any special, sort of moments, bedtime stories, a particular song, or some traditions which you would enjoy with your daughters, when they were younger?
Yeah, well, you're a officer or a commander or whatever in office, not at home.
Right.
At home, you're just any other parent.
Absolutely.
And your kids don't look at you as somebody holding a rank or appointment. They look up to you as a father, as a dad. So I think if you keep those two things apart, it's a very normal family life that you lead. And when the kids were small, whenever I was around,
Right.
yes, we used to have this thing of changing after dinner and bedtime stories.
Okay.
And they would listen to the same story every day with as much interest as the first time. And it was a totally invented story as to give it off the cuff.
Okay.
But just to enjoy it. And they knew it is all bunkum, but they liked it all the same.
So you wouldn't share stories from the field, some stories maybe, something.
No, that part was always kept aside.
Kept aside.
It's a good idea to keep that office work and your personal thing to separate compartments and not let them overlap.
Right. So now, so we have discussed this briefly. So if there is one thing, you have served for more than 40 years, and in some manner you're still serving the nation, continuously. If there is one thing which you have always wanted to pursue, as a hobby, more like a hobby, which you didn't get time for, and which now you may want to do that, or you've started doing it, something like that.
Well, writing, of course, is one thing. My mother was a prolific writer herself. She used to write short stories in Marathi. She won many awards also.
Okay.
My father, later on, not in the early years, but later after he retired, he had also started writing a lot of books, mainly on Maratha history.
Right.
So maybe writing runs a little bit in the family. That is one hobby that definitely path that I'm pursuing. And let's see, there's always new things coming up, and I feel that more new things you try, the younger you remain. So let's see, I may take up flying.
Okay. Yeah,
Everything is possible.
Absolutely. I think it's good to keep sort of doing something new. To keep yourself
afresh
all the time. Chief of Army Staff. It's crucial to plan each move. I think it's a very strategic role which you get into, and you have to. The safety of the nation, the whole nation is in your hands. But if in some way, the warfare is also like a game of chess, in some manner. And there are multiple pieces on a chessboard. There is a king, there is a queen, there are knights, there are rooks. Which piece of chess do you identify yourself as, with the best, when you were the chief at that point in time?
Well, not only as a chief, but I would say probably the knight.
Okay.
Because of its ability to jump across whatever is its way.
Right.
And the unpredictability of its moves, whereas the other pieces have to move. The knight also has to move in set, but little more unpredictable than the others.
Absolutely.
So possibly the knight, out of the box thinking which goes along with it. I think that would be the one.
Okay. And so post-retirement, is there any trait of your personality which has come to you as a surprise, or come to your wife or your people who are close to you as a surprise? Acha, I didn't know that I had this trait as well. If something like that did surprise you, once you are...
No, not really. I've always been a little easygoing person.
Okay.
I think after retirement, it's been more or less the same.
So sometimes for me, I sometimes wish that I have certain days, or that God gives me these 24 hours, which I have absolutely no obligations, no responsibility, nothing to do. If you had that opportunity, let's say the God comes and says, Tathastu, you have 24 hours, absolutely no obligations, no responsibilities, nothing we should do. How would that day look like for you?
Well, the best way to spend that day would be on the golf course.
Okay.
But since I do that thrice a week, 4 times a week as it is, perhaps another alternative would just be to go to some open space, a park or a field, sit under the shade of a tree with a good book novel and coffee or something by your side. Just spend time by yourself. Being alone and being lonely are two different things. So you can be in a big crowd but still feel lonely.
Absolutely.
So being by yourself is also way of rejuvenating yourself, spending time, me time. So I think that was what I would do.
Great answer. And so moving on to your sort of retirement day, the last day when you wore the uniform of the chief, what was going through your mind at that point in time?
Well, you see, unlike other jobs, unlike other services, in the armed forces, you know exactly which day you're going to retire.
Right.
The moment you pick up your rank, whichever rank it may be, brigadier, major general. So I knew I have to retire on 30th April of 2022. It doesn't come as a surprise. And it's for you to prepare for it beforehand. And therefore, there were no particular emotions or wide range of emotions that you are limiting office. Well, the procedure for that is started, your farewell visits, those all this. So in a way, you've already got mentally prepared that you have to leave.
Right.
But in the army, we have a very fine tradition that on the last day, you leave from your home, army house on Rajaji Marg. After finishing off the formalities, the guard of honor, you go to the chief's office, you sign, hand over to your successor, and from there you go to your house.
Okay.
You don't return to army house. Once you leave, and you don't look back.
A lot of people in our country should learn from this.
And that is the tradition which has been followed as long back as I can remember. You don't hang on. After your time is done. And thereafter, you did your bit, right? You were in service. Now let the next chap do his job and don't interfere. Don't try to give him advice, or you had your day and you had your opportunity to do what is to be done. Now let the next chap do.
That's a great tradition. So is there any question which you feel no one has ever asked you, which you wish, in so many interviews you've given, that someone would have asked you that question?
The one you're asking right now? That is the question not being asked.
So we have few rapid fire questions. So I have 6 questions for you, and you have to answer whatever first comes into your mind once you listen to that question. So we'll do it a little quickly. And so should we start? So a habit from the army you still can't shake off.
Getting up early.
Okay. What's more challenging, leading an army or convincing your wife?
Answer to that is, obvious. You can convince your subordinates. You can't convince your
wife.
spouse.
So it's the same for the army men also.
Absolutely.
What is your go-to song or a movie? Sometimes you feel like going back to certain movie or a song. You want to listen to them over and over again.
Movie might be Gone with the Wind.
Okay. It's a beautiful story.
Song, I'm not. I can't sing anything. I can't play any musical instrument, but I like listening to music. So whatever pops into my head.
Okay.
But if I had to go back to a book, apart from the movie Gone with the Wind, book I would probably read Battle Cry.
Okay.
By Leon Newell,
Right.
which is again one of the books I had read before joining NDA.
Okay.
And which in a way prepared me for all the ragging which is to take place.
Okay.
And so I was mentally prepared with these things. So these could probably be the 2-3 things.
So Gone with the Wind, I'd also like to share, is also very special to me. So I read a lot, and I've been reading since childhood because we had a fantastic library in my school. So I got a habit of reading from there, and I would read, childhood fiction like Hardy Boys, Secret Seven, and all that, Nancy Drew, these books. So Gone with the Wind was my first mainstream fictional book which I read. So that's always very special in that sense.
Like we have one dog-eared copy of Gone with the Wind, which all of us keep reading. So you start from the middle and then
Absolutely, it's a beautiful story.
and keep reading it every now and then.
So which is that one day or that moment which you would want to relive if given an option? So,
I think very nice, experiences when you do your para jumps.
okay,
You jump out of the aircraft, those 4-5 seconds that you're in free fall. That's a moment that you really feel alive.
right.
Yet you're wondering whether your parachute is going to
Open.
open or not. That's a heart-stopping moment.
Okay, great. So if your life had a tagline, what would it be?
Nice guys finish first.
That's a great one. I think can be a title of your biography.
Let's see.
If you had to survive in the wild with just 3 items, what would they be?
I think a good knife, a magnifying glass. I think I'll be happy with 2.
Oh, wow. and a great pick as well. I think both of them. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
It was pleasure knowing you through your answers. Not as a general, not as a chief, but as a man behind the uniform.
But since you mentioned that you're fond of reading,
So,
I would like to tell you that I've just finished writing a murder mystery
oh wow.
set in an army background.
Okay. I'll love
You
to.
can look forward to reading that. It should
Absolutely, sir.
come out in the next 2-3 months.
And I'll get the book signed from
Yeah,
you.
of course. So
Decided on the title of the book.
it's that part, title, cover is we're at that stage. We've reached that stage now. Otherwise, the manuscript is submitted.
I definitely look forward to reading that book, sir. And I'm sure others would also be eager to read that book. Thank you, sir. Thank you
you.
so much. Thank
Pleasure.
you so much for your time.